What's going on, YouTube? I'm AJ. This is my gun review, and we finally got a Fowler in for you. So this is going to be the Warm and Fuzzy collaboration, which is going to be a 5-inch barrel, no comp ports, full-length steel dust cover, and aluminum grip module. And personally, I think this is a very handsome pistol with the copper PVD over black. Now, when I originally started the channel, part of what I wanted to do was share some of the insight into some of these companies that I think is interesting, if maybe a little bit nerdy. And Fowler was really one of the companies that I had a lot to say about and have been working to get one on the channel to share some of that with you guys. So to start, I'll say Logan Fowler is an absolute demon with a pistol. The dude can shoot, and I've seen that on video, and I have several first-person accounts that support it. And what I tend to find when purchasing guns, much like the Terran Tactical Sand Viper, is guns built by shooters tend to get a lot of little details right. This is no exception. On top of that, I'll say when Fowler first entered the market, they were coming from a Glock modding side of the industry. And usually when Glock modders get into 2011s, I view that as a red flag. What it takes to make a Glock tolerable is very different than what it takes to make a 2011 good. And fortunately, Logan is no fool. So instead of just taking on the project head on, he reached out to a friend that happens to be 1911 royalty in John Jardine. And for those who don't know John Jardine, we'll take the story back a little bit, starting with the beginning of the custom 1911. So early on, 1911s were primarily modified as fighting guns for Texas Rangers or for competition purposes, specifically for bullseye. In the 60s, practical shooting became more popular, and really the epicenter of that was California, where some of the big name modifiers who really turned the 1911 into the platform we know and love today really sank their hooks in. The godfather of which being Armand Swenson. Now, Swenson's modifications weren't always the prettiest or most well-finished, but they were very functional. And some of his innovations still carry over today, which is why he is regarded so highly in the custom 1911 world. Now, John Jardine comes into this story because, if I remember correctly, he married into the Swenson family, where inevitably he likely picked up some 1911 building knowledge from Swenson. But instead of just making Swenson replicas or standing in the giant Swede's shadow, Jardine made a name for himself and created his own unique style. Jardine is also a shooter, and a highlight of this would be his personal Vultro 1911, which had over 1 million rounds of 45 through it. And I happen to think that's one of the coolest guns ever. And for those who are familiar with Jardine's work, it does have a unique style to it, much of which you'll see directly carried over in the regular Vanta 9 models from Fowler. There's heavy influence, and the Vanta 9s were actually the last project that John collaborated on before he passed away. And through that influence, you get a lot of very well thought out details in these pistols. So kudos to Logan to reaching out to one of the best in the business to make sure that once he got in the 2011 market, he was going to do it right. On top of that, with Fowler, you get a great community of shooters. So they have their own Discord server where some of the biggest names in 2011 collecting all hang out. And it just serves as a great community for the 2011, not just Fowler guns. Now, I'm old and I don't actually understand Discord, but it feels a lot like a group text to me. I hate group text, so I'm never really over there. But again, I think overall it's a good thing. Now, as to Warm and Fuzzy, I actually still don't know what Warm and Fuzzy is. But we're going to head over to the tabletop and take a little bit closer look at what you get with the Fowler Warm and Fuzzy collaboration. All right. The Fowler Vanta 9 Warm and Fuzzy. So, to start out, we have a 5-inch bull barrel. No ports, but you can see we have some fluting on the barrel. Maybe lightens it up a little bit. What I'll say is I like that the barrel is actually proud of the slide. You see so many flush cut guns these days. I actually like a proud barrel every now and then, and I think this looks very good. You have a copper PVD finish. It does have some wear on it. You have a little comet cut over the top, which is unique and attractive. Also, appealing to the Colt fanboy in me is the vertical cocking serrations, which are very functional. They feel great, and I think they look great, as well as a little lightning cut here on the side, and lightning cut at the front that actually goes down into the frame. I think is very well done. Racking the gun is very smooth. There's no slide play, and I happen to know this is a fairly high round count example, as the owner uses it as his primary limited optics gun. So it definitely speaks well to Fowler's build quality. The optic plate is also unique to Fowler. I like the geometrical rear sight. I think it, again, is fairly attractive. The SRO is mounted reasonably low, and I like that the rear sight just barely clears, which, in my opinion, is how backup iron sights should be done on an optic gun. You'll also note on the barrel hood, we have a little additional stylistic fluting. The frame is steel, full-length dust cover. I like how the bevel matches on the slide. You'll note that the guide rod is full length. It's got a bit of stylistic fluting, and we'll need a paper clip for takedown. Here on the frame, you have a little index texture. Some people use this for their thumb. Where I find it more useful is actually indexing my trigger finger. Now, moving back to the slide stop, this is another detail that's unique to Fowler. What I like with Fowler is, unlike a lot of other guns and gun companies you see that are kind of a cookie cutter formula, a lot of the details on Fowler are specific and unique to Fowler, this being no exception. Now, you'll notice it's very low profile. You have a little undercut underneath, but the manner in which it's done is phenomenal, in which you have directional serrations. So the two on the bottom make it easy to push up on, lock the slide back. The two on the top are directional downward, which make it easy to release the slide. If you're going to do a low profile slide stop, I think this is the gold standard, and I have absolutely no complaint about this piece. Phenomenal from Fowler. Moving back to the thumb safety, this is a fairly sharp piece. So look at that point there. That did not make me feel warm and fuzzy. No? Anyone? But in actual use, though there are quite a few hard edges on this piece, I found it very workable. It never turned out to be a problem. You have great blending on the back as well as towards the front, so you don't get that pinch point on the opposite side paddle. You'll notice right through here. Also, because the paddles themselves are so thin, it kept any interference away from my trigger finger, so I wasn't accidentally bumping the safeties up. In function, they're weighted perfectly, and you have no wobble. So, though I had some initial concerns, they are well thought out, and they function very well. The ignition component is from EGW. What I like, again, you're getting some custom touches, and you'll see it's checkered over here, which actually feels great. Then a couple ball cuts right there. Again, just very well done, unique touches that make the pistol its own. The beaver tail is well blended, it's non-functional. And the grip module, I don't know if it's made by Chile or if Fowler is making these in-house now, but the shape is the same as the Chile E2. Texture-wise, this isn't really my jam. It's way too slick. Years ago, while reviewing a Nighthawk, I coined the phrase the Nighthawk soap bar, basically digging at their slippery gripless grip module. And this is very much the same. It just, no real front or back texture, and as best I could tell, this is just for aesthetics. It provided no side grip texture. Now, it's still a step up from the Nighthawk piece because it is ergonomically enhanced, so it does feel good in the hand. And though I prefer a more aggressive grip module, what I can say of slick grip modules is they do serve as a form of recoil reduction. Reason being, because it's slippery, as the gun recoils, this kind of glides around in your hand a little bit. It doesn't stick and dig, so you don't feel quite as much of the overall recoil that is occurring in your hand. So I can understand for some shooters where this might actually be preferable, especially if you're shooting at a slower pace. But again, personally, I like them a little bit more aggressive. Fowler has their Valentine grip, which I actually think is phenomenal. Moving down to the magwell, again, it's a unique Fowler piece. It starts out as a Chile large hand tactical magwell where they have additional cut on the front, which, again, it's aesthetic, not particularly functional, but I think it does look good. You have Warm and Fuzzy logo right there. You'll notice these cuts right here make it compatible with the staccato Dawson base pads. Moving up to the mag release, I like that this is also finished in the copper PVD. Sprung a little bit heavier, no hangups. Overall, very nice execution. And then we get to the trigger. Yet again, a unique Fowler piece. I like that it has a serrated front. Again, just gives you a little bit more tactile feedback. And the fit is perfect. There's no play in any direction from this. The pull is right about 2.5 pounds, which is my personal sweet spot. Very nice break. Hammer has a nice thwack because you have full power mainspring. Immediate reset, that's very fast. Honestly, just a perfect trigger. Can't ask for anything better than that. So, that is your Fowler Warm and Fuzzy.
But does it shoot? Superbly, I must say. The Fowler is interesting because it is sprung more like a fighting pistol than your traditional competition-based 2011s. That is noteworthy both because of reliability when the gun is dirty, but also because of how the pistol handles heavier loads like the American Eagle 147 grains I was shooting. Fact of the matter is, the gun was an absolute sewing machine, regardless of rounds I used, and would be in contention for the nicest shooting, non-comp reported 2011 I've ever used. The overall feel was definitely up my alley, and it leaves no question why so many top-level shooters are using Vanta 9s. Beyond being genuinely nice and soft to shoot, the gun tracked very well, returned to zero perfectly, and was surprisingly quick on the steel. In all seriousness, a truly top-tier 2011.
All right, final thoughts on the Fowler. So, I'm just going to outright say it. I adore this gun. It is probably my favorite naturally aspirated 2011 I've used yet. It really appeals to me because it is sprung more like a fighting gun than a competition gun. So it does have some weight to it, but it handles heavier loads a lot better than the likes of an Atlas or an Infinity. It's very fast. It tracks phenomenally. You can immediately see why so many high-level shooters are running these Fowlers. For me, it really bridges the gap between the fighting 2011s and the gaming 2011s. This is a gun where, shoot, the owner regularly runs this gun as his primary limited optics gun, but it would be just as comfortable in a week-long tactical class. It's really a great all-rounder. The details are very well thought out throughout, and the build quality is phenomenal. Add to that, with a special edition, you're getting a very handsome pistol and a very impressive display case, and I really can't find any fault to complain about. For me, the optimal spec would be one of the standard Vanta 9s in FDE with a Valentine grip and some ports, but this is a gun I would consider purchasing for myself. So I really can't give it much higher praise than that. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.